Hello, children. Today I am going to take a chapter from your book Flamingo Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood by Anish Chang. This is an excerpt from his long book, Stories of Stolen Childhood. It tells us about two children belonging to the downtrodden section of the society. And before to tell you about the story, let me tell you something about the writer of this beautiful piece of writing, Anish Chang. Anish Chang is an Indian female author, journalist, and columnist who writes for major newspapers in India and abroad. She was born at Rourkela and belonged to an aristocratic family in Hyderabad. Her father, Nawab Hoshiar Jung, who was a renowned scholar and poet, worked as the Muhasib advisor to the late Nizam, Prince of Hyderabad state. And her mother and brothers are also well known Urdu poets. Jung hit the headlines with the publication of Unveiling India in 1987, which is primarily a travel diary that focuses on interviews with women. She went on write many subsequent books on the same topic and talked to women about their everyday lives and wrote books like Night of the New Moon, Encounters with Muslim Women in India 1993 and Seven Sisters in 1994. Her book Breaking the Silence 1977 included conversation on women's lives from around the world. Now, let me tell you something about the present chapter, The Lost Spring. As we all know, spring is a season associated with optimism and hope. It also works as a metaphor for the childhood stage in our life. Right from the time we are born until late childhood, every child hopes for new beginnings and a bright future. The phase of childhood is all about innocence, energy, and tremendous inclination towards outdoor activities along with fun and play. And playtime doesn't have any limits. It is also a time of getting more skill and knowledge and going to school. Here, we take a look at a particularly impressive mentation. Here is the Lost Spring summary. The Lost Spring, written by Anish Jung, talks about the national shame of children being forced to live a life of poverty and exploitation. The main two protagonists of the chapter, Saibe Alam and Mukesh, don't live their childhood as they have to carry the burden of poverty and illiteracy. In other, in their miserable stories of exploitation, the author provides glimpses of fortitude and resilience. Now, the introduction to this. It's a beautiful piece of writing, my dear children. The story Lord Spring deals with the deplorable condition of poor children who get forced to miss the simple, joyful moments of childhood because of their social economic conditions. These children are not given the opportunity of schooling and are compelled to start working early in life. The author Anish Jung strives hard to eliminate child labor through her book. She propagates the education of children and informs of strict laws against child labor by the government. The message is to put an end to child exploitation and let our children enjoy their days of the spring and joy. Now, Lost Springs summary. There are two stories including in this chapter, in this excerpt. One is sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. The first part talks about the writer's impressions about the life of the unfortunate rag pickers. The rag pickers migrate from Dhaka and find a settlement in Simapuri. They end up losing their fields and homes due to storms. They then come to the big city to find a living but are poor. The author then watches Sahib, the rag picker, every morning, who is always crouching खोदना, निकालना, for gold in her neighborhood. Garbage is actually the means of survival for elders and is something wrapped in wonder for the children. Sometimes the children find a coin or two from it. Even these kids have desires and admirations and ambitions, but they have no clue about how to achieve them. But they have no clue about how to achieve them. There are many things. There are many things there are many things that are unreachable to them. For instance, shoes, tennis, and similar stuff. Later on, Sahib starts working at a tea stall where he earns 800 rupees and also gets to eat all the meals, but the job takes away his freedom. And second part is I want to drive a car. The second part is about the life of Mukesh, who comes from the family of Bengal makers. Firozabad is quite popular for its glass blowing industry. Is staggering 20,000 children are a part of this business, and any law that forbids child labor is brutally ignored over here. Also the working environment and the living conditions, they are pathetic. Children live in dingy cells and walk around hot furnaces that make them that make them blind when they enter adulthood. Since they are weighed down by debt, they can't think or find any way to escape this trap. The politicians, policemen, middlemen, and bureaucrats obstruct their way of progress. Most women in such families think that it is their fate and just follow the tradition. But Mukesh is very different from the rest of the folk here. He has dreams of becoming a motor mechanic. The garage is quite far from his house, but he shall walk. But he shall walk. Now, my dear children, it's time to paraphrase, to explain line by line to you. The first story I am going to take up. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Yes, my dear children, let me start with it. Why do you do this? I asked Sahib, whom I encounter every morning, scrounging for gold. Scrounging means searching for gold in in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago, said amidst the green fields of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. There are many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. That is why they left, looking for gold in the big city where he lives now. एवरी मॉर्निंग हर सुबह राइटर एक यंग रैक पिकर बॉय को देखती है जो गार्बेज डंप जो उसके घर के पास है उसमें विजिट करने आता है और वहां पे वो गोल्ड को सर्च करता है वहां पे ही सर्च फॉर गोल्ड द राइटर सेज that he searches for gold ironically because although the garbage dump is full of useless thrown away things still he shuffles it so minutely as if he will get something as precious as gold from it. The boy's name is Sahib. His home is in Dhaka. His home in Dhaka was in the middle of lush green fields. They had left it many years ago and he doesn't remember it anymore. His mother had told him that there were many storms which destroyed their homes and fields, so they left home and shifted to the cities in search of gold. The writer says, looking for gold in big city, gold here refers to something precious which was not available in their hometown. Things like shoes, money bags, etc. for the children, and food, clothing, shelter as means of survival for their parents. The boy searches for such precious things in the garbage dumps. One day, the writer questioned Sahib and asked him the reason for searching through the garbage. For searching through the garbage. And he replies, I have nothing else to do. I have nothing else to do. He mutters away. Go to school, I said glibly. Glibly means speaking and spoken in a confident way, but without careful thought or honesty. Realizing immediately how hollow my advice, hollow means meaningless, my advice may sound. उसने कहा मेरे पास कुछ काम करने के लिए नहीं है. I don't have any work to do. और कोई काम रैग पिकिंग के सिवा. राइटर सजेस्ट करती है स्कूल जाइए. स्कूल जाइए. बट वो रियलाइज करती है कि हर एडवाइस इज मीनिंगलेस फॉर द पुअर बॉय. वो रिप्लाई करता है कि उसके एरिया में कोई स्कूल नहीं है. उसके एरिया में कोई स्कूल ही नहीं है. वेयर ही लिव्स. उसके एरिया में कोई स्कूल नहीं है. एरिया में कोई स्कूल ही नहीं है. एंड ही एश्योर्स हर, वो उसे कहता है कि इफ आई स्टार्ट, वो कहती है इफ आई स्टार्ट ए स्कूल विल यू कम. शी सेड हाफ जोकिंगली. वो कहता है हाँ, अगर बनाओगी तो मैं जरूर आऊंगा. अगर बनाओगी तो मैं जरूर आऊंगा. एश्योर्स हर दैट ही विल गो टू स्कूल when one is built near his house. The writers asked him jokingly if she opened a school, would he attend? Would he attend? क्या वो अटेंड करेगा? Yes, he says smiling broadly. Yes, he says smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say. Embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner. In this bleak means empty word. Abundant means they exist in large number. And embarrassed का मतलब होता है feeling ashamed. साहब कहते हैं कि he will join the writer's school. अब थोड़े दिनों के बाद वो भागता उसके पास आता है, कहता है कि आपका स्कूल बन चुका. तो राइटर कहती है क्या कहती है कि it takes a lot time to build a school, and she felt ashamed at making a false promise. She felt ashamed at making a false promise. She had said this as a joke that had never intended, but she had never intended to open a school. So she felt ashamed of herself. But Sahib is not hurt. Sahib is not hurt because he was used to such false promises and they existed in a large number in his empty world. He was surrounded by such false promises made by everyone around him. His world was empty as no promises made to Sahib were ever fulfilled. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. He doesn't know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefooted people an army of barefooted, barefoot boys who appear like morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the month, I have come to recognize each of them. The writer had known साहिब आलम for few months. और एक दिन उससे पूछती है उसका नाम, वो कहता है साहिब आलम। वो उसका मतलब नहीं जानता, वो नहीं जानता उसके नाम का मीनिंग क्या है। उसके नाम का मीनिंग है लॉर्ड ऑफ द यूनिवर्स, दुनिया का बादशाह। उसे बिलीव, he would not be able to believe it that his name is opposite to his life, that his name is opposite to his life. He went around the streets with a group of friends. It was an army of boys who didn't wear any footwear because वो afford नहीं कर सकते हैं. They appear in the morning like morning birds and disappear at noon. The writer could recognize all of them as she had been seeing them for the past few months. As she had been seeing them for the past few months. Why are you not wearing chappals? I asked one. My mother didn't bring them down from the shelf. He answered simply. What if she will? Even if she did, he will throw them off. Added another who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair throughout his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities, on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to say barefoot. As one explanation, I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away perpetual state of poverty. Perpetual state of poverty means never-ending condition of being poor. Never-ending condition of being poor. मैंने एक दिन कहती है एक से पूछा आप चप्पल क्यों नहीं डाल रहे। उसने जवाब दिया मेरी माँ ने मुझे उतार के नहीं दी। The boy simply replied that his mother didn't put down from the shelf as they were beyond his reach. As they were beyond his reach. उसकी रीच से बाहर थी। As they were beyond his reach. उसकी रीच से बाहर थी। और फिर इस पे क्या हुआ। When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet. When I commented on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes. एक तीसरे लड़के ने कहा जिसने अपनी पूरी जिंदगी में कभी शूज की शक्ल तक नहीं देखी थी। ट्रेवलिंग अक्रॉस द कंट्री, वे कहती हैं कि मुझे ऐसे लोग मिले और मुझे ऐसे लोग मिले जो कहती ऐसे लोग मिले कि जो कि मैंने देखा, कहती है बच्चों को नंगे पांव चलते हुए गांव में, नंगे पांव। She has seen many children walking barefoot in the cities as well as in the villages. They reasoned that they were barefoot not due to the lack of money. पैसे के लिए नहीं पांव में चलते, पर ये उनकी ट्रेडिशन है, ये उनकी ट्रेडिशन है। barefoot उनका और राइटर वंडर करती है and concludes that the reason of it being a tradition was a mere excuse to hide the fact that they were so poor that they couldn't afford footwear. कहता है उनकी जो एवर एंडिंग पॉवर्टी है उसे वो छुपाने की कोशिश करते हैं। I remember a story from Udepi. Once told me as a young boy he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at a temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple which was now drowned in an air of desolation. Air of desolation means उजाड़ हो गया था थोड़ा. Air of desolation. In the backyard, where lives the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting, हाँफता हुआ, and threw his school bag on the folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess has granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes. For many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. अब राइटर कहती है, writer narrated a story told to her by a man from Udupi. Udupi is a town in Karnataka. When he was a young boy, he would walk to the school. On the way, or cross a temple where his father worked as a priest. He would stop at the temple and pray to God, to the goddess, to bless him with a pair of shoes. After 30 years, the writer visited the town and the temple. Now the place was nearly empty. The new priest lived in the backyard of the temple. Plastic chairs in red and white color were kept there. A young boy came running. He was wearing clay-colored school uniform, socks and shoes. He had a school bag hung on his shoulders. He threw it on the bed and ran away. He threw it on the bed and ran away. The writer wants to say that the financial position of the priest at the temple has improved over the last 40 years. He prayed to the goddess that he may never lose the shoes that he had got. The goddess has granted his prayer. As a boy, never lost his shoes, never lost his footwear. This shows us that the underprivileged value anything that they get because they have been longing for it. Because they had been longing for it. उनकी longing थी ये, उनको चाहत थी ये. My acquaintances. My acquaintances with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to a Simapuri. Leads me to Sima. Acquaintance means a contact. Leads me to Simapuri, which is on the periphery. Periphery means outer area of Delhi, at miles away from it. Metaphorically, those who live here are squatters. Squatters means जबरदस्ती कब्जा किए हुए. Who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. Saib's family is among them. Simapuri was then wilderness. उजाड़ था वो. It is still is, but there is no longer empty. The structures of mud with roof of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. राइटर ने डिस्क्राइब करते हैं उस एरिया का वेयर दिस रैग पिकर बॉयज में. कहती मैं जब इनसे इन नंगे पांव चलने वाले कूड़ा बीनने वालों से मेरी जब मुलाकात हुई तो मैं इनके उत्सुकतावश मैं इनके सीमापुरी गई, जो एक दिल्ली की आउटर प्लेस है, और पर मेटाफोरिकली वो दिल्ली नहीं है. जो यहाँ रहते हैं वो वहां जबरदस्ती कब्जा किए हुए हैं. वो बांग्लादेश से आए थे 71 की वार के बाद, जब बांग्लादेश आजाद हुआ था. साहब की फैमिली उनमें से एक है. सीमा पीढ़ी था वो एक उजाड़ था, अभी भी वो उजाड़ है, पर वो खाली नहीं है. और उसमें क्या है, उसमें क्या है. But now it was not empty, as at most 10,000 rag pickers lived there in structures made of mud with roofs made of thin sheets of tin or plastic material called tarpaulin. There is no sewerage, drainage, or running water facilities in Simapuri. They live in unhygienical conditions. It's a piece of wasteland where the garbage of the city was collected. These people have started living there illegally. इलीगली रहते हैं वो लीगली नहीं रहते हैं, इलीगली रहते हैं. They had lived here for more than 30 years. 30 साल हो गए इनको यहाँ रहते हुए. विदाउट एन आइडेंटिटी, कोई आइडेंटिटी नहीं है इनकी. विदाउट परमिट्स, बट विद राशन कार्ड्स, and get their names on voter lists to enable them to buy grain. Food is more important for survival than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain, says a group of women in tatters matlab torn saris, when I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. रेड पिकर्स यहाँ 30 साल से रहते हैं, 30 years से इनके कोई आया नहीं. दे हैव ऑक्युपाइड द एरिया विदाउट गवर्नमेंट परमिशन और ओनरशिप. द पॉलिटिशियंस ऑफ द एरिया, उन्होंने क्या प्रोवाइड किया इनको? राशन कार्ड दे दिए, वोटर आइडेंटिटी कार्ड दे दिए. दे गेट ग्रोसरी फॉर देयर फैमिली थ्रू दिस राशन कार्ड्स, and in return they cast their votes in favor of the politician who has helped them. राइट ने ग्रुप ऑफ औरत एक औरतों के एक ग्रुप से पूछा जो फटी हुई साड़ियां डाली हुई थी कि आपने क्यों छोड़ा आपका वो ब्यूटीफुल ग्रीन फील्ड्स और रिवर्स वाला लैंड. उन्होंने उनका जो जवाब था कि if they were able to satisfy the hunger of their family and sleep well at night, they were happier to live in Simapuri than in the fields of Dhaka, which were ruined and gave them no food. And gave them no food. उनसे बेटर है यहाँ रहना. It's better to live here. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents. And that becomes their transit homes. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Proportions of fine art मतलब ये एक art बन गया ये उनके लिए. Garbage to them is gold and is their daily bread. A roof over their heads, even if it's a leaking roof. But for a child, it's even more. ये जो है लोग भोजन की खोज में ट्रेवल करते हैं और जहाँ भी इन्हें भोजन मिलता है वहीं अपने टेम्परेरी घर बना लेते हैं, अपने टेंट लगा देते हैं, स्टार्ट लिविंग देयर. और दे ये बच्चे हैं इसी में ग्रो होते हैं और ग्रेजुअली दे आल्सो स्टार्ट हेल्पिंग देयर पेरेंट्स इन सीकिंग मीन्स ऑफ सर्वाइवल. फॉर दोज हु लिव इन सीमापुरी द मीन्स ऑफ सर्वाइवल इज रैग पिकिंग, as they had been doing it for many years. These families searched for garbage dumps, and for the rag pickers, the garbage was precious as gold. Because they had been searching dump for years and got things which they sold to fund their food. They gathered torn or damaged sheets which were used to cover the roof of their homes. They didn't cover them well, but still provides them some protection. For the children, garbage dump is more than the means of survival. More than the means of survival. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. Sahib says, his eyes lighten up. उससे चमकती हैं, show joy और happiness show करती हैं. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging. अब उसे ढूंढना खोदना बंद नहीं करते. For there is a hope of finding more. It seems for the children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder, and for the elders, is a mean of survival. अब साहिब हैप्पी है, वो कहता है मैं कभी कभी इसमें 1 रुपया या कभी कभी 10 रुपये भी कम से कभी मिल जाता है डंप में. As one often finds even a silver coin in the garbage dump, he kept on searching, hoping to find more. For the children, garbage dump is a mean of fulfilling their dreams, although partially, while for their parents, it's a mean of aiding survival by providing the basic cloth, food, and shelter. Cloth, food, and shelter. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums. content means satisfied to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around it, admits the gatekeeper lets me use the swing. अब साहिब कहते हैं कि एक विंटर मॉर्निंग उस राइटर ने देखा साहिब को एक क्लब की दीवार के पास खड़ा था, फेंस के पास, वो टेनिस गेम को देख रहा था बड़ी इंटेंटली, बड़े ध्यान से, और दो यंग मैन खेल रहे थे। साहिब कहता है मुझे गेम बहुत पसंद है पर वो इसे खेल नहीं सकता। He told the writer that he went inside the club when it would be closed. He was allowed to take swings by the guard there. Guard उसे झूला भी झूलने देता है वहां अंदर। Sahib is too wearing his tennis shoes. That looks strange over his discolored means thrown away, discarded. With discolored shirts and shorts. Someone gave them to me. Someone gave them to me. He says in a manner of explanation. The fact that they are discarded, but thrown away shoes of some city rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them doesn't bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. Intently means itne dhyan se. Raja saw Sahib was also wearing tennis shoes. And they did not look appropriate with his dress, which were worn out and faded. He told writer in an attempt to justify himself that someone gave him these shoes. She however figured out, उसने जाना कि no कि he had got them from a garbage dump. They must have been thrown away by a boy from a rich family as he didn't want to wear them anymore. Probably they had a hole or two in one of them due to which he never wanted to wear them. But on the contrary, उसके विपरीत Sahib was not bothered by the fact and had no problem wearing them as he couldn't afford anything better than that. He walked barefoot and to wear a shoe, even with a hole, was like a dream for him, although due to the garbage dump, Sahib's dream of wearing shoes have been partially fulfilled, but his desire to play tennis would never be fulfilled. Would never be fulfilled. वो टेनिस कभी नहीं खेल पाएगा, कभी भी नहीं। This morning, I saw Sahib on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. In his hand is a steel canister. I now walk in a milk booth in the stall down the road. He says, pointing to the distance, I'm paid rupees 800 and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, had lost. His face, I see, had lost the carefree look. His face, I see, had lost the carefree look. He had lost the carefree look. Look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry. So light over his shoulder. So light over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own master. Sahib is no longer his own master. एक दिन राइटर को साहिब मिला, वो अपने रास्ते पे था, मिल्क बूथ पे, और उसके हाथ में एक स्टील कनिस्टर था, कंटेनर था। उसने बताया राइटर को कि उसे एक नौकरी मिल गई है एक नियर बाई टी स्टॉल में, वो उसे 800 रुपये मिलते हैं और दिन का खाना भी मिलता है। राइटर ने उसे पूछा क्या वो इस जॉब को पसंद करता है। As she could see that he had lost his carefree looks. क्योंकि साहिब नाउ was working for someone वो अब गुलाम हो गया था. And he was carrying his master's container. He was burdened with responsibility. Earlier, as a rag picker, Sir would carry his own bag and was his own master. And now he is no longer his own master. He has become an worker now. Now, this is what the first part was. Now, the second part. I want to drive a car. Mukesh insisted on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. His dreams look like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town Firozabad, famous for Bengals. Even other families in Firozabad is engaged in making Bengals. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making Bengals for all the women in the land, it seems. मुकेश इंसिस्ट करता है कि मैं अपना मास्टर खुद बनूंगा, मैं एक मोटर मैकेनिक बनूंगा. कहता है, कहती जब मैंने उससे पूछा क्या तुम कुछ कार के बारे में जानते हो, कहते मैं सीख लूंगा, सीख. वो सीधा मेरी आंखों में देखता है, उसकी आंखों में चमक है और वो स्टेट मेरी आंखों में देखता है, कॉन्फिडेंस और डिटर्मिनेशन के साथ. उसका जो सपना है वो कैसा है कि इट सीम्स दैट इट विल बी ट्रू इन द फ्यूचर, बट एक्चुअली इट विल नॉट बी सो. वो क्या है, वो किसमें, उस धूल भरी हुई स्ट्रीट्स में जो कि फिरोजाबाद टाउन की हैं, उसमें वो जो अपने बैंगल्स के लिए मशहूर है. हर परिवार उसका फिरोजाबाद में, हर दूसरा परिवार बैंगल मेकिंग का काम करता है. ये सेंटर है इंडिया की ग्लास ब्लोइंग इंडस्ट्री का, जहां फैमिलीज ने जनरेशन बिता दी हैं, जनरेशन आफ्टर जनरेशन फर्निस के आसपास काम करते हुए, वेल्डिंग ग्लास, मेकिंग बेंगल्स, सब शायद पूरे देश की औरतों के लिए चूड़ियां बनाने के लिए. And Mukesh family is one of them. Mukesh family as one of them. None of them knows that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures in dingy means a dark and damp cells without air and light. That law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog means they work hard, their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. वो पावर ऑफ टू सी, अंधे हो जाते हैं. मुकेश फैमिली भी उनमें से एक है. उनमें से कोई नहीं जानता कि बच्चों का ग्लास फर्नेसेस के सामने, हाई टेम्परेचर के सामने काम करवाना इलीगल है. वो काम कहाँ, उन डार्क डिम सेल्स में जहां ना हवा है ना रोशनी है. अगर लागू किया जाए तो वो उसको और उस जैसे 20,000 बच्चों को उन हार्ट फर्नेसेस से बाहर निकाल सकता है, जहां वो सारा दिन दिन मेहनत करते हैं, जबरदस्त मेहनत करते हैं. और क्या नतीजा क्या होता है, वो जवान होते होते उनकी आंखों की रोशनी चली जाती है, उनकी आंखों की रोशनी चली जाती है. मुकेश आइज बीम एज ए वॉलंटियर्स. Beam मतलब shine brightly as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. We walk down stinking. Stinking means bad smelling, emitting bad smell. Lanes chalked with garbage, भरी हुई जो है. Past homes that remain whovels, slums हैं जो, with crumbling walls, टूटी हुई दीवारें, wobbly doors, हिलते हुए दरवाजे, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in the primeval state. Coexisting in the primeval state. Oh, coexisting मतलब एक इकट्ठे रहते. Primeval means prehistoric stage. He stops at the door of one such house. bangs the popular window with his foot and pushes it open. मुकेश बहुत खुश है, राइटर को अपने घर लेके जा रहा है। वो बहुत प्राउड फील करता है उसे इन्फॉर्म करके कि हम दोबारा घर बना रहे हैं, रिनोवेट कर रहे हैं। कहते हैं हम चले उन बदबूदार सड़कों गलियों के बीच में जो कि गार्बेज से भरी हुई थी। उन घरों, वो स्लम एरिया था, स्लम्स के जैसे टूटते हुए दीवारें, हिलते हुए दरवाजे, ना कोई खिड़कियां, जिनमें भरे हुए थे ह्यूमंस और एनिमल्स इकट्ठे कोएग्जिस्ट कर रहे थे, इकट्ठे रह रहे थे, जैसे कि वो प्री हिस्टोरिक एज में रह रहे हैं। वो ऐसे ही एक घर के दरवाजे के आगे रुका। उसने वो हिलते हुए आयरन के दरवाजे को अपने पैर से खोला और हम अंदर गए। We entered a half-built shack. We entered a half-built shack. Shack means a roughly built hut. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass. Thatched means जिसके covered with dry grass. is a firewood stove. एक चूल्हा लकड़ी का जिसमें लकड़ी डाल के जलाई जाती है. Over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach wheels. Sizzling means hissing sound करते हुए frying or cooking. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, platter means plating, are more chopped vegetables कटी हुई. A frail young woman, frail means पतली दुबली young woman cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother, not much older in years. She has begun to command respect as the Bahu of the house. She has begun to command respect as the Bahu of the house, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of 3 men, husband, Mukesh and their father. अब कहते हम एक आधे बनी हुई एक झोपड़ी में दाखिल हुए और एक हिस्से में उसमें जो छत थी वो ड्राई ग्रास की छत से कवर किया था, फूस से, और एक लकड़ी का चूल्हा जल रहा था जिसके ऊपर एक बहुत बड़ा बर्तन रखा था जिसमें पालक उबल रही थी, और जमीन पे बड़े बड़े प्लेटें पड़ी थी जिनमें कटी हुई और वेजिटेबल्स थी। एक जवान दुबली पतली लड़की शाम का खाना बना रही थी पूरी फैमिली के लिए, और उसकी आंखें धुएं से भरी हुई थी और उसने मुझे तरफ देख के स्माइल किया धुएं से भरी आंखों से। वो मुकेश के बड़े भाई की बहू है, वाइफ है। हालांकि उम्र में ज्यादा बड़ी नहीं है, फिर भी वो एक बहू है घर की, डॉटर इन लॉ है घर की। वो 3 आदमियों की देखभाल करती है, अपने हस्बैंड की, मुकेश की, और अपने फादर इन लॉ की, और अपने फादर इन लॉ की। When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings veil closer to her face as custom demands. Daughter-in-laws must veil their faces before male elders. In this case, the elder is an impoverished Bengal maker, a गरीब, बूढ़ा गरीब बेंगल मेकर है। impoverished, गरीब, बहुत ही गरीब, very poor. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor and then as Bengal maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his 2 sons to school. All he has managed to do is to teach them what he knows, the art of making bangles. जब उसका मुकेश के पिताजी घर में दाखिल होते हैं तो डॉटर इन लॉ बहू जो है वो एक दीवार के पीछे छुप जाती है और अपने चेहरे पे घूंघट कर लेती है, क्योंकि यही कस्टम है कि बहुओं को अपने चेहरे को घूंघट कर लेना चाहिए जब भी बड़ा आदमी घर में दाखिल हो। और इस केस में जो एल्डर है, जो ससुर है, वो एक बहुत ही गरीब बेंगल मेकर है। हालांकि उसने बहुत लंबे अरसे तक बहुत मेहनत की है। पहले वो एक टेलर था, फिर वो बेंगल मेकर है। वो अपना घर को संवार नहीं पाया, अपने 2 बच्चों को स्कूल नहीं भेज पाया। जो कुछ वो कर पाया है वो ये है कि वो यही सिखा पाया है सबको जो वो जानता है, द आर्ट ऑफ बेंगल मेकिंग। बैंगल मेकिंग की कला जो वो खुद जानता है वही वो सिखा पाया है. It is his karma, his destiny, says Mukesh's grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from the polishing of glass bangles. Can a God given lineage ever be broken? She implies. वो कहते हैं ये तो डेस्टिनी है, तो फेट है, ये तो हमारा कर्म है, ये तो हमारा हमारा भाग्य है. मुकेश की ग्रैंड मदर कहती हैं जिसने अपने पति को अंधा होते देखा है वो ग्लास बेंगल्स की पॉलिश से, डस्ट फ्रॉम द पॉलिशिंग ऑफ द ग्लास बेंगल्स. क्या एक भगवान की दी हुई लाइनेज हम ब्रोक कर सकते हैं? हमने भगवान ने पैदा किया है इस जात में, क्या हम इससे बाहर जा सकते हैं? शी इम्प्लाइज, वो कहती हैं, शी सेज she says she said that his family has got this sort of bangle making from God, so they had to carry on the tradition. Born in the caste of bangle makers, born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing except bangles. In the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street of Firozabad, spirals of bangles, spirals, there, there. Sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the seven colors of the rainbow. In lie in mounds, mound mean heaps, in unkempt, not taken care of, bilkul khule mein yards, are piled on four-wheeled handcarts pushed by young men over along the narrow lanes of this shanty town. Of this shanty means is a town which is full of small, roughly built huts. They are born in a particular caste, which is to be follow the profession of bangle making. All their life, they had just seen these glass bangles, nothing else. They were everywhere, in the backyard, in the next house, in the yard, and even in the streets of this town. There were huge spiral bunches of bangles in different colors, like gold, green, blue, pink, purple. There were bangles of all colors of the rainbow. Further, the writer says that there were bangles of the in the neglected yards also. They were dumped on hard carts for sale. They were pushed by men along the dirty streets of Firozabad. Along the dirty streets of Firozabad. And in the dark hutments, next to the lines of the flames of flickering oil lamps, sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers, welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. This is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. Writer describes the environment now where these bangle makers work. They work in small, dark huts. The children would sit next to the line of oil lamps whose flames were unsteady, flickering. They, along with their parents, joined the pieces of the colored glass into circles called bangles. As they spent a lot of time in dark, their eyes wouldn't adapt to the bright sunlight, and many of them lost their childhood, lost their eyesight before gaining adulthood. Lost their eyesight before gaining adulthood. Now she comes to a girl called Savita. Savita, a young girl draped in pink, in a drab means gandhi, faded, colorless, pink dress, sits alongside elderly woman, soldiering pieces of glass. As her hands moved mechanically like tongs of a machine. Tongs means instrument which involves arms joining at the one end. उनके मशीन के टुकड़ों की हाथों की तरह. I wonder if she knows the sanctities. Sanctity means the state of being secured. Sanctity of the bangles she helped makes. It symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag, auspiciousness in marriage. अब वो auspicious, a good omen है. Sanctity means state of being scared. There's a young girl by the name of Savita. She wore a faded pink colored dress. She was sitting with an elderly woman and they were joining pieces of glass and making bangles. Her hands moves like that of a machine, like that of the tongs of a machine. The writer wonders if Savita knows that bangles were sacred. They were a good omen for a woman's wifehood. सुहाग की निशानी है, इंडियन औरत के सुहाग की निशानी है. Auspiciousness is marriage. It will dawn on her suddenly one day. It will dawn on her suddenly one day when her hands, dawn on her, she will realize when her hands head is draped with a red veil, covered with a red veil, घूंघट से लाल, her hands dyed red with henna, उसके हाथों में मेहंदी लगी होगी and red bangles और लाल लाल चूड़ा उसकी बाहों में होगा. शी विल देन बिकम तब वो एक बहू बन जाएगी. लाइक द ओल्ड वोमन बिसाइड हर हु बिकेम मेनी इयर्स अगो. उस बूढ़ी औरत की तरह जो उसके साथ बैठी है तो बहुत साल पहले, सालों साल पहले एक बहू बनी थी. शी स्टिल हैज बैंगल्स इन हर रिस्ट. अभी भी उसके हाथों में चूड़ियां हैं बट नो लाइट इन हर आईज. पर आंखों में रोशनी नहीं है. हाथों में चूड़ियां तो हैं पर आंखों में रोशनी नहीं. आंखों में रोशनी गुम हो गई है. एक वक्त शेर भर खाना भी नहीं खाया. एक वक्त शेर भर खाना भी नहीं खाया. शी सेज इन ए वॉइस ड्रेन्ड ऑफ जॉय, जिसमें की खुशी है ही नहीं. जिसमें की खुशी है ही नहीं. ड्रेन्ड ऑफ जॉय. शी हैज नॉट एंजॉयड इवन ए फुल वन फुल मील इन हर एंटायर लाइफ टाइम. पूरी जिंदगी उसने पेट भर कभी खाना खाया ही नहीं. दैट इज व्हाट शी हैज सीन. यही उसने पाया है, यही उसने खोजा है. दिस इज द बेनिफिट शी हैड रिसीव्ड बाय अडॉप्टिंग द प्रोफेशन ऑफ बैंगल मेकिंग. ये पाया उसने. हर हस्बैंड एन ओल्ड मैन विद अ फ्लोइंग बियर्ड सेज, उसका पति जो बूढ़ा आदमी है लंबी दाढ़ी वाला, वो कहता है आई नो नथिंग एक्सेप्ट बैंगल्स. मुझे बैंगल बनाने के सिवा कुछ नहीं आता. ऑल आई हैव डन टू मेक ए हाउस फॉर द फैमिली टू लिव इन. मैं बस इतना ही कर सका हूं इनके लिए कि इनके रहने के लिए एक मकान बना सका हूं. इनके रहने के लिए एक मकान बना दिया मैंने. बस दिस इज व्हाट आई वाज एबल टू डू. हियरिंग हिम वन वॉन्डर्स. हियरिंग हिम वन वॉन्डर्स if he has achieved what many have failed in his lifetime. He has a roof over his head. A writer wonder करती है कि that probably the old man has achieved something which many other people have not been able to achieve. At least he has been able to secure a shelter for his family. उसने अपने परिवार के सर के ऊपर एक छत तो बना दी है. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. Sorry, children. The young man echo means repeat. The lament means complaint of their elders. Little has moved with time, it seems, in Firozabad. Years of mind-numbing means boring, toil, hard work have killed all initiative and the ability to dream. उन्हें सपने लेना ही सोना ही सोच दिया है. उन्हें सपने देखना ही सोच दिया है. The problem was prevalent in all homes which carried on the profession. They didn't know anything else other than bangle making and did not even provide them enough to eat. The young man who had entered the traditional profession also had the same complaint. वो इको करते हैं, वो रिपीट करते हैं अपने माँ बाप की कंप्लेंट को. Same complaint. With the passing of time, there is no improvement in their condition. As they have been doing hard work for countless number of years, they didn't have any ability to do something else or to dream of it. इसका सपना भी नहीं देख सकते कुछ और करने का. सपना भी नहीं देख सकते कुछ और करने Why not organize yourself in a cooperative? I asked a group of young men who had fallen into the vicious मतलब cruel circle of middlemen, बिचौलिए, who trapped their fathers and forefathers, जिन्होंने उनके बाप को और बुजुर्गों को अपने पंजे में शिकंजे में जकड़ रखा था. Even if I got organized, we are ones who will be hauled up by the police. वो कहते हैं अगर हम यूनाइट भी हो जाएं, ऑर्गेनाइज भी हो जाएं, तो हमें ही पुलिस वाले मारते हैं, हमें ही पुलिस वाले हॉल करते हैं, हमें ही पुलिस वाले तंग करते हैं. बीटन एंड ड्रैग टू जेल फॉर डूइंग समथिंग लीगल. हमें मारा जाता है, हमें जेल कर दिया में भेज दिया जाता है जैसे हमने कुछ चीज इलीगल की है, अनलॉफुल की है. देयर इज नो लीडर अमंग देम. उनमें कोई लीडर नहीं है. नो वन हु कुड हेल्प देम सी थिंग्स डिफरेंटली. ऐसा कोई भी नहीं है जो उन्हें कुछ और रास्ता दिखा सके. देयर फादर्स आर एज टायर्ड. उनके माता पिता भी उतने ही थके हुए हैं जितने कि ये लोग हैं. ये लोग भी अपने माता पिता जैसे ही हैं. ये लोग भी अपने, दे आर ऑल सो टायर्ड, द मैन एंड देयर फादर, सारे के सारे थके हुए लोग, सारे के सारे थके हुए लोग हैं. दे टॉक एंडलेसली, दे टॉक endlessly of poverty. They talk endlessly in a spiral. Spiral means a never ending continuous way process. Spiral goal होता है ना, तो never ending, that moves poverty to apathy. Apathy means lack of concern, to greed, knowledge, and to injustice. Listening to them, I see two distinct words. One of the family caught in the web of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born, and other, a vicious circle of the sahukars, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. Together, they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down. Before he is aware, he accepts it as naturally as his father. To do anything else would mean to dare. वो बातें करते हैं एंडलेसली, एक ऐसे सर्कल में जो कभी खत्म नहीं होने वाला है. द मैन कंप्लेन दैट इट वाज ए कॉन्टिन्यूस प्रोसेस. द पुअर कंडीशन लेड टू लैक ऑफ कंसर्न फॉर देयर प्रॉब्लम्स. दिस मेड देम ग्रीडी एंड लेड टू इनजस्टिस. द राइटर envisioned that there were two separate worlds, one of such families who are stuck in poverty and the pressure of doing the traditional profession according to the caste in which they were born, and the other world is a never ending cycle of moneylenders, middlemen, policemen, law keepers, government officials, and politicians. Both of these words have forced the young boy to follow the family traditions. The young boys get into the profession and become a part of the vicious circle even before they realize it. If they did, if they did anything else, it means they are challenging these two words, which means to dare, and daring is not in the process of their growing up, and daring is not a part of his growing up. और सपने देखना तो इन्होंने सीखा ही नहीं है. When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I am cheered. I want to be a motor mechanic. He repeats. He will go to a garage and learn. But the garage is a long way from his home. I will walk, he insists. Do you also dream of flying a plane? He suddenly silent. No, he says, staring at the ground. जब वो कहता है मैं मोटर मैकेनिक बनूंगा, तो राइटर ने क्या लिखा कि वो मेरी आंखों में झांक के देखा, उसकी आंखों में सपना है, उसकी आंखों में दृढ़ता है. अब जब उसने पूछा प्लेन उड़ाना, तब उसे मालूम है वो मेरी रीच से बाहर है, वो नीचे देखता है. In a small murmur, there is an embarrassment that has not yet turned into regret. He is content to dream of cars. वो उसे है कार का सपना. That he sees hurtling down the streets of his town. Few airplanes fly over Firozabad. The boy has not been reared up to be bold. so that they could dare to go against the system. The writer was happy to sense that Mukesh had a spark in him. उसमें एक चिंगारी थी. He repeats that he would be a motor mechanic. He wanted to go to garage and learn the job. The writer asked him, as the garage was at a distance from his home. Mukesh insists that he would walk up to it. She asked him if he dreamt of flying planes. The boy becomes silent and and refused. He didn't know about them as he didn't know about planes. Not many planes flew over Firozabad, and he had only seen cars moving around in Firozabad. His dreams was restricted up to them. His dreams were restricted up to them. No, my dear children, isn't it a beautiful story? Isn't it a beautiful piece of writing? Haven't I know that you have understood it very well. Now let me ask you some questions. I hope you'll be able to apply these of your own. But even then, I'm there to help you. Question number one. What could be some of the reasons for the migrants of people from villages to cities? What are some of the reasons for the migrants of the village to cities? Think over the answer. I'll be right back. And yes, children, the answer is people migrate from villages to cities in search of a better life. They want to earn money so that they can lead a good life and rear their children in a better way. As cities have more opportunities for work, this makes them migrate from villages to these big cities. Second question, would you agree that promises made to the poor children are rarely kept? Why do you think this happens in the incidents narrated in the text? Your time to think the answer starts right now. Yes, dear children. Yes, I agree that the promises made to the children, poor children, are rarely fulfilled. In the story, the writer jokingly offers the rag picker boy to join a school that she would open. In fact, she doesn't intend to open a school. She speaks mindlessly, but the boy takes it to be true and later asks her if the school was opened. There are many such hollow promises in the boy's life because the person who makes the promises never intend to fulfill it. What forces conspire to keep the workers in the bagel industry of Firozabad in poverty? What forces inspire to keep the workers in the Bengal industry of Firozabad in poverty? Think over the answer. I will be right back. Yes, dear children, the writer tells us that the Bengal makers of Firozabad are poverty stricken. They are burdened by the fact of a particular caste in which they are born, Bengal makers. They have to continue its traditional profession. Further, the society has formed a harsh circle around them. The moneylenders, middlemen, policemen, lawkeepers, officers, and politicians altogether form a barrier around them and in and tie them in the grip of poverty. They can't escape from it. And the next question to you is how in your opinion how in your opinion can Mukesh realize his dream? How in your opinion can Mukesh realize his dream? Think over. I'll be right back. Yes, Mukesh dares to dream and wanted to become a motor mechanic. He wanted to drive cars too. He took the initial step by aspiring to do something different from the family business. I think that Mukesh can realize his dream with determination and hard work. Now, the next question mentioned the hazards of working in the glass Bengal industry. It's a very important question, my dear children, and it comes. And yet comes. The poor Bengal makers of Firozabad work in dangerous conditions. The furnaces have very high temperatures and no ventilation. Hence, they are prone to ailments like lung cancer. While polishing the bangles, the dust harms their eyes and many lose their vision. They remain in dark for long hours, so are unable to see during the daytime. And next question to you is very simple. What is Sahib looking in the garbage dumps? Where is he and where has he come from? Think over and I will explain you the answer. Sahib is looking for any precious thing which he can't afford to buy. Things like a rupee, silver coin, or a pair of shoes. He has come to the garbage dump in the writer's neighborhood. He lives in Simapuri in Delhi and has come from Dhaka. Yes, what explanation does the author offer for the children not wearing footwear? Yes, very simple. The author says that they do not wear footwear because it's a tradition in their family to remain barefoot. And next question is Sahib happy working at the tea stall? Yes, Sahib is happy that he has got a work at the tea stall. He will get 800 rupees every month and his meal too, but he is not content. But he is not now free. He is a slave now. He has become a servant now. What makes the city of Firozabad famous? Firozabad is famous for glass blowing industry. Mention the hazards of working in the glass Bengal industry. It's a very important question, my dear children. People who work in the glass Bengal industry lose their eyesight. बहुत कुछ है, lung cancer होता है, anything. How is the Mukesh attitude to his situation different from his family? Yes, this is an important question again. Mukesh dares to dream and has a way out of the situation. He aspires to become a motor mechanic. On the other hand, the family doesn't dare to dream. They're too tired and scared to do something to come out of this grim situation. Yes, dear children, I hope you must have understood the chapter very well. Definitely, you must have understood the chapter very well, and I'm confident that now you can answer any question which comes from this chapter. And till my next appearance, I take your leave, I beg your leave. Bye. See
इस वीडियो को लास्ट तक देखने के लिए थैंक यू। अगर आपको वीडियो पसंद आया है तो इसे लाइक और शेयर करें। सब्सक्राइब करना बिल्कुल ना भूलें। अगर आपको कोई डाउट है तो कमेंट सेक्शन में उसे लिखें, हम जल्दी ही उसका रिप्लाई